Kennedy, how are they going to, in the lame duck, fund the wall at all? I heard $5 million is on the table from Senator Mitch McConnell.
$5 million?
$5 billion, excuse me. And then they're talking, right, for you, Geraldo. And then they're talking about defunding possibly when Pelosi takes over the gavel of ICE.
Yes, the Democrats have talked about that. It's really the progressive wing of the Democrat Party, because mainstream Democrats, populist Democrats from the Midwest, they really don't have a lot of interest in that because they don't have an answer for, well, what do you do in place of ICE? And that's the problem that Republicans ran into replacing Obamacare. They really didn't have a great solution for that, and people are going to get very sick and tired of that brand of obstructionism. Republicans really couldn't do much when they had the majority in both chambers.
Yeah.
So how on earth are you going to create this sense of urgency just because you have a compressed timeline? And the interesting thing here is you really do have a solution. Democrats have something they want. Republicans who support the president have something they want. And if you trade dreamers for the wall, both sides really are not far off in this compromise.
That's too sensible.
That was.
I know, but that's the problem is if both sides love it. You're absolutely right about the activists on both sides. They love the entrenchment. It's one of those issues where everyone wins when a group of people caught in the middle are the losers.
There was a deal on the table, and then for some reason it fell apart. Morgan, now they're also talking about getting rid of Kirstjen Nielsen. Trump allegedly, if you're going to believe the media right now, is very upset with her. She's not doing enough on the border, and he's thinking about replacing her as soon as tomorrow, we're hearing.
Well, I just want to say for the record, I'm super happy that we're still talking about the caravan. But listen, when it comes to
well, they said that Fox was going to stop covering the caravan.
No, not at all.
They said Fox was going to stop covering it once the midterms hit.
We kept it going, baby.
We're covering it on the 5.
We kept it going. So everybody in the cabinet serves at the pleasure of the president, right? So if the president wants to remove someone because he doesn't feel that person's doing a good job, whether it's her or not, that's his prerogative as commander-in-chief to do as he wants. What I think was really important, actually, is that Mattis went down there. And all of you know that I'm, a national security person. And I think by Mattis going down there, he really signaled that this is a legitimate mission. This is a national security mission.
Well, he said we don't do stunts at the Department of Defense.
He said that he's supportive of it. But he also talked about this sort of being a moral issue. He framed what happened 100 years ago whenever the military went down to the southwest border to protect it. So although a lot of people may not like the president's rhetoric or may make fun of him talking about the wall, I think what's important to note is that his strong action on this and his strong words on that, I think, are really preventing people from getting from getting even closer. But the most important thing, I think, is what Geraldo said, that the true people that we have to look at from a national security perspective are not the economic migrants or the refugees. The real problem are the gangs and the MS-13, and that's why you need the military, and that's why you need to beef up ICE, and that's why Mattis is down there, because this is about national security. It's not about a few poor migrants trying to get.
Geraldo, I want you to respond to what Kennedy said. Do you think that the Republicans may have lost some seats in the House because they had the majorities and they didn't pay for the wall?
I don't think that's what happened. I think the president and the nation suffered the double misfortune, the tragedy of the massacre in the Jewish synagogue in Pittsburgh and the bombers sending bombs out the week before the election, giving America a sense of disquiet and looking at President Trump as being less than invulnerable. He seemed shattered or rattled, let me, a better word.
But if it's in 2020, 2 years from now, there's still no border wall funding, and there's still caravans coming, that's going to hurt turnout among Republicans.
I have urged the president to his face in conversations to please take the Kennedy deal, give the Dreamers a pathway to citizenship. The Democrats have already said they will fund the wall, make them stand up, make them do that. The elections have consequences. He's earned his wall, just as the Dreamers have earned their path to citizenship. But I have to say, you referenced something that Secretary Mattis said about 100 years ago. 150 years ago, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, California, and all these other states belong to Mexico. So there's a special relationship that has to be recognized. We have 7 million unfilled jobs in this country. We have fruit and vegetables dying on the vine. I think we have to get off the dime. We have to force our political leaders, right and left, red, blue, Republican and Democrat, to fix this problem. Enough already. Enough grandstanding.
All right. I get it. It's important that we have people to go do these jobs. The one thing that drives me crazy about this is that whenever you are for the law and order process, whether it is for prisons, strong borders, or terror, the opposing side is always going to say that you're against a certain group of people. You're always going to be painted as mean. So if you have a strong border, you don't like brown people. If you want you're strong on terror, you're Islamophobic. If you're for a strong criminal justice system, you just want to incarcerate more blacks, which actually President Trump showed today he's not. But the point is, if you are a law and order person, the only argument that you're going to get in response is that you're just a mean bigot. And I think that really diminishes the debate.
It does, because they can't argue on substance. They have to smear. All right, Florida election chaos continues. President Trump calling for Broward County election supervisor Brenda Sneaky Snipes to be fired.
Did you name her?
And the feds are getting involved down there in Florida. Details up next.
No, weren't you in the original Menudo?
I was. Yes. I actually interviewed him for the original Menudo. Anyway, more dysfunction in the election drama that's unfolding in Florida. More dysfunction. Is that news? A state judge, as you know, extended the Palm Beach County recount by 5 more days after those troubling reports of voting machines overheating and breaking down. So that's a state court judge. But now a federal judge has taken over the case from the state court judge. A federal judge in Tallahassee has taken the case, and he requested, I don't know if it's a he or she actually, requested that all interested parties explain why that new Palm Beach County deadline should or should not be extended until next Tuesday. You follow me? So we don't know if the Palm Beach election deadline has been extended or not. A federal judge now is making that decision right now. Otherwise, the deadline is tomorrow. Meanwhile, Brenda Snipes, remember her, Brenda, the embattled Broward County election supervisor? She's defending the slow, ever so slow vote count.
I'd like to call to your attention that this midterm election, in addition to running very smoothly, was one of the most highly participated midterm elections probably that we've had in 20 years or more.
Well, it's true that everybody voted, and over 8 million people in Florida voted, and you have 6 votes between. I made that up. In a new interview today with the Daily Caller, President Trump is slamming Brenda, calling her a disgrace and saying she should be fired. And don't you wish the president would stop criticizing black women for 2 weeks?
He criticizes everybody, Geraldo. He just went after Acosta. Come on. Crazy.
Yeah, I don't think he spares criticism for anybody. I mean, but listen,
Geraldo's point.
This is not. She's clearly incompetent. I mean, this is well documented.
She's been
at
reelected
this point.
4 times.
Well, and that's really.
Yeah, so was Marion Barry.
So was Robert Byrd.
True.
No, I mean, listen. I think what's really on the line here is election integrity for 2020 as well. Not just here. And people in Florida, my lovely home state, deserve the right, to know who won on election night, to have these be fair. Something interesting that I didn't realize is actually on the ballot in Florida here in the midterms. One of the amendments was to have all of the supervisors of every county elected, which did pass in Florida. So we're in for even more of a treat.
Yeah.
More Brendas. Now, do you want to withdraw that characterization?
Sneaky? No, I'm going to stick to sneaky.
So what do you think of, isn't the real problem that Florida's 50-50 and you have 8 million votes and you have a handful separating? I mean, is there any system that could
Well,
sort
it became a handful. It used to be 60,000 and now it's 15. And she thinks it's running smoothly. Listen, Geraldo, 3,000 counties in America are finished with the vote tallies. They've all done a great job. You have one county, or maybe 2, one county, and they have no idea how many votes were cast, counted, or how many still have to be counted, and she thinks it's running smoothly. She is a laughingstock. Everybody in this country is looking at her like she's a complete moron, and she's defending herself. Now, it's gotten so bad, the spin from MSNBC is that she's a Republican. That's what they're saying because they know.
Is she?
No, she was appointed by a Republican. She's run for re-election 4 times as a Democrat.
And now Bush appointed
she's saying, yeah, great, well done, low energy, Jeb. Yeah, now she's saying she's stepping down, right? You know when she's stepping down? In 2 years. So she's going to oversee this recount and oversee the 2020 election.
Isn't the point, Kennedy, that we reasonably expect the winner to be declared the winner? And isn't it just as as likely that Rick Scott has prevailed by 12,000 odd votes, and that DeSantis has also prevailed in his case by 30,000.
It's very unlikely, given past elections, that these numbers will reverse and the decision will be overturned. Having said that, you're right. Florida is close. So anticipate that and make sure everything is functioning. In Palm Beach County, the vote counting machines are made by a company that no longer exists. They had $11 million set aside for new machines, but they couldn't decide which ones to get and if they were ADA compliant. So now you have machines that need WD-40, a mechanic flown in from the Midwest who can ram a horn in her and basically get things working again because there's smoke coming out. But the biggest problem is, it's not that they're overheating and breaking down. It's that every time you put the votes in, you come up with different tallies. And that is quite problematic.
Greg, do you, in your cynicism, believe that they're trying to rig the election?
I don't know anymore. These are the people. If the Democrats win, it's no problem. If they lose, it's rigged.
Right.
That's what we've learned.
Right.
And they said that it was like if you didn't chase the Russians, then you were guilty of treason. But if you chase the Democrats, you're guilty of treason. Is that how it works? Here's the thing. I hate this topic because nobody knows anything. It's like nobody. This is like the worst episode of People's Court when you have two really boring people arguing over hedges. Like my hedge, that's what this is. That's what this is. And it all comes down to one thing. Who's going to give up first? The Democrats, it's an adolescent staring contest. And the Democrats always do this stuff. They never give up. But now the Republicans just have to play the game and resist and do not give up all the way to the end. And the Democrats will finally leave. There's no way that they could win this. I don't see how.
But my favorite is that Nelson and Scott both showed up in the Senate this week. It's like the Miss USA pageant a few years ago, whenever there was like one girl won, and then they took the crown off her head and put it on the other girl.
I like Scott, and I like Nelson. I have no pony in this race, but I do think that.
Don't you own property in Florida?
Yes, I do. And there's no reason on earth. There's 67 counties in Florida. Why don't they all have the same machines? Why don't they all have the same stuff? Why do they have each?
They're all made out of.
Makes its own deal for its own machine.
Even if they carried him out, he would turn to 50 million Americans and say, I'm still your president, and this is my new government. This is what we're dealing with here, kids.
Yeah. You know, Greg, this is going to be a really tough decision for me as a Navy reservist. Which side do I take in the military coup?
I don't know. What a Deutschbag.
That's so funny.
Choose wisely.
Thank you. Deutschbag? Yep. I just came up with that. He's a Deutschbag.
That's good too.
But you know what the funny thing? Obviously, he's kind of like, he was like going to a place where he was semi-not serious, and then he realized he was going to a place where, I'm saying something really, really stupid. Do I own it, or do I just say I'm kidding? No, I'm going to say it's really going to happen. But he had an opportunity to split off and just say I'm joking, but he went there. And here's the point. They talk a lot about Trump because if they didn't, their viewers would bail on them because without Donald Trump, they are left with their own personalities, which are grating, unlike the five, in which we can talk about anything because we're fun people who like neat things and do interesting stuff.
Absolutely.
Wow. I feel so blessed.
Jesse, one of the things, I'm never surprised whenever Donnie Joyce and Joe Scarborough count the president out, which I always think is a mistake. But one of the things that did surprise me when Axios detailed how he thought the president's reelection bid looked, 3 in 10 Americans say they want to see Trump reelected. And the numbers weren't great. Again, I always think that people discount this president. But what do you think about this Axios report that it's going to be incredibly difficult for the president to get reelected?
I think it's going to be more difficult because he's probably not going to face crooked. And he's got to win Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan.
Ohio.
Not necessarily all 3 of them, but he at least needs 1. But I want to talk about Deutschbag. I respect him. He's a talented guy, had a nice career, always tan. I definitely tip my hat off to that. But I feel like Greg was right. He's weaving into a point where he's like starts to peddle a conspiracy theory, and then he smirks in order to pull off, am I kidding or am I serious? And I know smirking. Yes. I do that, and I respect that. The Trump predictions, I made a list of things that people have said would happen with Donald Trump. He would drop out of the general election. He would resign during the transition and hand over the keys to Pence. Sure. He would nuke North Korea, pull out of NATO, fire Mueller. He would be arrested, and then he would pardon himself.
Right.
Well, Trump is a Russian asset, and then they also predicted, which is the most outlandish, that Trump would stop tweeting.
Yeah.
And
that's really
that
outrageous.
by far is
Never
the most outrageous.
Never happened.
Yeah, I mean, anyway, go ahead. I don't even know what to say about
I was just going to say that I have a couple of predictions. There's,
you know the president, right?
I know the president.
I didn't know you knew him. What?
Oh, well, I know the president.
But he doesn't seem disinterested to me at all in the job. I mean, that's what Scarborough said. That can seem
Scarborough is talking from guilt because he helped elect Trump, and now he's virtue signaling to his audience.
Nicole Wallace and Joe Scarborough, the two most vehement Trump haters, are both Republican, which I find very, very ironic. There's not going to be any Russian collusion. Take it to the bank. It doesn't happen, doesn't exist. It is absolute BS. Mueller's report will be the biggest vanilla piece of cake that you've ever, sponge cake that you've ever had. It's not going to happen. You like vanilla. And I believe that he will run for re-election. I've seen his supporters are very. That's very good. That's very good.
Kennedy, what I'm wondering is because when you have all of these guys like Scarborough and Deutsch and all of them that are and everyone running for the president, it's like a shoe measuring contest with the president. Let's put it that way.
I don't think they're measuring shoes or.
Well, for cable television, they're measuring shoes.
Sure.
So, do you think
Not
any of the women? I'm not going there. Do you think any of the women
Never had a problem
that are running against the president, perhaps will be better suited because they're not sort of like two macho males fighting it out?
At this point, we don't know. We don't know who the nominee is going to be. It looks like it's going to be Joe Biden because, according to all the polls, he's at the top of the.
Disagree, but go ahead.
All right, very good. Elizabeth Warren, it is, Greg. I redact that statement. But it's funny because Donnie Deutsch obviously doesn't know anything about politics because he's using words like, "Oh, he's going to be disqualified," as though it's a figure skating contest. And it's like, are you saying he's going to be impeached somehow, or that he's younger than 35, or he was born in Guam? Like, what is the disqualification?
That would be funny if Trump wasn't born in America.
You were born in Kenya.
After all that.
Yeah. And the other thing is, there are those on the left who make fun of conservatives for talking about, and libertarians for talking about the deep state. And they say that people who talk that way are conspiracy theorists when they conflate what if with what is. And they talk about these things and they paint these fantasies like, well, what if the president doesn't leave the Oval Office? And he's like Boris Yeltsin 2020 and he's barricaded himself in and he has to be extracted with Crisco in the military. And they're talking about it as though it's the worst thing in the world and as though it's happening right now.
Right,
it's the same thing we're seeing with Matthew Whitaker. They're talking about Matthew Whitaker as though he's already punched Robert Mueller in the face and single-handedly shut down the investigation.
And that's an amazing point because these are coming from the people who actually haven't accepted the outcome of the election that are saying this. I mean, anyway, we got to go. Stay right there. Wild Card Wednesday is next.
Yay!
It's Dana Perino, if that's her real name, is here today. I'm taking over her duties on Wild Card Wednesday. Hey, you jumped a little too soon on that. So we got to, let's get past this. We got a lot of people who haven't played this before, but we each pick a topic and we put it in this hat. None of us know each other's story. First up.
Oh, man, where's Dana?
Dear Greg, I love you. Call me Kilmeade.
Greg.
This is a great story. Monopoly for millennials. Hasbro's just released this game. It's Monopoly for millennials. So instead of collecting cash or paying rent and buying property, you collect experience points by visiting places like your friend's couch, the vegan bistro, and a week-long meditation retreat. The player who collects the most experience chips, not the one with the most money, wins. Is this for real, Kennedy? Is this a prank?
I think it is for real. I think that is absolutely true, and it's just one of the clumsy ways that corporate America is trying to embrace the less than greatest generation.
Geraldo, you're almost a millennial.
My shoes are millennial. I think that Kennedy hits it right on target. To try to appeal to a slackard or someone who lacks ambition or vision by offering up an activity that lacks vision or requires energy, I think is doomed to fail. I think it's a terrible idea. It's insulting to millennials, and it's hard to insult millennials.
I thought millennials were a cookie, Morgan.
What I like about this game is
Average Bob still remembers.
It's $19.82, which is supposed to be the year that millennials started, which is the year I was born.
Wow.
And the Monopoly guy on the front is taking a selfie, and I'm so obnoxious with selfies, so I think this game is awesome, so screw all of you guys.
Yes. Will you play it?
Yeah, I played it last weekend, actually, against my 7-year-old daughter, and she beat me.
Wow.
And I'll tell you
bored?
why. She bought, what?
She was bored and you were totally engaged.
No, I was totally engaged. She bought everything she landed on. That is the trick to Monopoly. You just buy everything, and then you build.
Wow.
I was
Millennials have no money
too
to buy.
selective.
All right, let's pick another one. I already did. Ooh, study. Men with beards are more attractive than men who are clean-shaven. They asked 8,500 women to rate men on their attractiveness as a long-term romantic partner, and men with beards turned out to be the top choice. I'm suspicious. It indicates a male's ability to successfully compete socially with other males for resources and is associated with masculine social dominance. Morgan, do you agree, disagree?
I think it depends on the guy, because some guys look better with beards and not.
What about women?
You know,
I mean, this is the most sexist study on the planet.
Beard or no beard doesn't bother me. The thing that bothers me that I think is like the unsexiest thing ever is the male like top bun.
Oh, man, the man bun.
The man bun.
The dork knob.
Yeah. As long as I would never date a guy with a
Kenny, did you ever date a guy with a beard? Not with a guy who had a beard, but a guy with a beard.
I've been a beard, and that was fun. I agree with this. Growing up in Oregon, there's something.
Lumberjacks.
You know, and nowadays young men are not really taught how to be men. They're taught to be ashamed of their toxic masculinity. And so women are longing very much for a guy who can do something with his hands.
That's an interesting point. That, like, Geraldo, the facial hair somehow reminds women of a bygone era of masculinity.
Well, that may be, but I think that beards really came
Like
into
Lady
vogue
Chatterley's lover.
because men have such bad hair and they want to distract from what's on top of their
That's
head.
a very
by
male
growing
way
it
of
on their chin.
Yes, exactly.
So every time I see a beard, that's the first thing I think, this guy's trying to, it's divert our attention.
What about you, Jesse?
Yeah, I can't grow a beard. This is about 3 weeks right here. But I've never had any problems in that department, so I don't think it really matters.
Never had any problems. All right, I have.
It's the second time you've said that on the show.
I don't want to do that one.
That's so true.
Let's do this one.
All right.
To play by the rules. Okay. Pilots saw a very bright UFO streaking over Ireland. Could it be aliens?
Appears to be multiple objects following the same sort of trajectory, so very bright from where we were.
To come up on our left-hand side and then rapidly veer to the north. Being so bright light, and then it's just disappeared at a very high speed.
Even when they're talking about UFOs, the British sound so smart.
I find this more believable because they see it and they talk about it with a British accent. So it sounds like MI6.
Yes.
It sounds like this is actually happening.
My goodness.
I saw UFOs.
Really?
I was totally wasted at the time. I was on my boat in the Bahamas.
You know, I saw UFO and I was wasted. Great band.
I saw UTFO. They were great. I actually believe this, and I think now there's so much political chaos and so much frightening instability that it would be the perfect time for aliens.
An alien invasion.
Now it's not like we have been so softened to expect anything.
Let me get Morgan.
Is that the caravan story?
We gotta go.
Invasion.
Build a wall.
I believe 100% believe in aliens for
Really?
sure. Yeah, absolutely. Think about how big, like the multiple universes, planets, solar systems.
Oh, Morgan, it's not that big.
for sure.
I've been around.
Yeah.
One more thing up next.
Today on Monday, I was at STEM down there in Florida, speaking at the Young America's Foundation chapter down there. There I am, dazzling the crowd
Great
with my
hair,
brilliance.
Jesse.
Yes, it was a huge crowd around the block. It's so big, the crowd, we can't even show you that that's the chapter.
Isn't that them?
Right there. The crowd was about twice that size. And then tonight I'll be on Martha with Wednesdays with Waters. There it is. All right, Greg Gutfeld is next.
All right, my podcast is up. You go to foxnewspodcast.com. It's an interview with a retired New York Police Department detective, Anthony Favara. He spent 32 years dealing specifically with what would you call disturbed individuals. And so we talk about the difference between bad and mad people.
Ah, good.
Now it's time for this. Greg's Can of Beans News. Let's roll this tape. I want to show you an interesting way to open a can of beans. Here we have a person using, I would not recommend doing this, but apparently this person is trying to open a can of beans with a knife, and looks like it's successful, but I would not do this. I would probably find an alternative way to open up this can of beans, especially when you notice.
Oh!
you had a beard, you could open it that way.
All right, very good. Kennedy.
I think this is so wonderful. So we talked about the wildfires in California and the firefighters who are being sent in from different states. There is a group of comfort dogs that have gathered in Irvine, California at Cal State Lutheran. Ruthie, Emma, Cubby, Jacob, Hannah, and Lois, the LCC Canine Comfort Dogs, are doing a wonderful job. They stood with their handlers to wave on those incredible firefighters and give them hugs and kisses, because even these brave heroes who are going to save lives and homes and property, they still need snuggles from the greatest animals on earth, which are not cats.
No, unnecessary.
No, ma'am.
All right, email Kennedy. Morgan.
Okay, so last night I was in one of my favorite cities in America, Nashville, and my friends Krista Stefano and Kelly Lovelace, who are country music singers, they have over 40 #1, they write country music songs, so they have over 40 #1s between the two of them.
Wow.
We went to an event last night for the Tomahawk Foundation. We raised over $400,000. Tomahawk supports the families of special operations, especially if someone has been injured or has been killed in combat. So last night we had a ton of military, a ton of special operations, friends of mine in the room, lots of country music, which made it even better. And so everybody should check out Tomahawk, and happy to support them. And I love you, Nashville.
Wow, dogs and country music. I feel like Dana's here, even though she's
all we need is a story about Avenatti.
We're not going to talk about that. I'm not. But, you know, my state, my new home state, Ohio and New York, many parts of the country grappling with the awful opioid epidemic, heroin epidemic, fentanyl, and so forth, over 70,000 dead. We get some small measure of revenge as a trial that has just begun out in Brooklyn in federal court. El Chapo, Joaquin Guzman, the notorious head of the Sinaloa drug cartel, is on trial right now. This is 2 years, about 2.5 years after he escaped through one of the most amazing tunnels ever born. That's his wife. I got to tell you about her. But I went to this tunnel. I covered it for Hannity. It's a mile long, precisely directed. Went right. Not only did they get into the prison, they got into El Chapo's cell. They got in the one point of El Chapo's cell where the surveillance camera couldn't see what they were doing.
Reminds me of a colonoscopy.
But his biggest achievement was Emma Coronel Aspiro, his beautiful wife, in court with him, but he can't touch her.
That was his biggest achievement?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
I remember when you did
All
that.
Right. Set your DVRs. Never miss an episode of The Five. Special Report is up next with Brett Baer.
Thanks, Jesse. We come down to the wire in crucial Senate and governor's recounts in Florida. President Trump says no decisions have been made yet on who stays and who goes in his administration. Plus, Secretaries of Defense and Homeland Security tour the border and meet with troops. This is Special Report.